Hey, what's up, guys? Uh, Welcome back to another Reddit Stories video. So, I noticed that a lot of you really enjoyed the last r//confessions video, and honestly, I get it. There's something about these raw, unfiltered stories, people spilling their deepest secrets, that just pulls you in. Today, I've got even more shocking, heartbreaking, and downright unbelievable confessions for you. Some will leave you speechless, others might hit close to homes, and a few will make you wonder what you would do in the same situation. And if you missed the last confession video, don't worry, I've linked it in the description, so be sure to check it out after this one. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We're on the road 10,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps make that happen. All right, let's dive into these jaw-dropping confessions from Reddit. Today's my 28th birthday, and I am going to end it tomorrow. Hi, I am 28 male, and it's 12:25 a.m. I didn't got a single call. I have tickets for Coldplay concert for 26th Jan, my favorite band, and I don't want to attend it because I have 3 extra tickets. But not even a single friend agreed to go to that concert with me. And I booked those in hope that someone will come. Seats are Block B lower, W100-WW103. If you find all those seats empty, understand that I am gone. And it's not because I didn't want to attend that concert. I really wanted that, but not even one of my friends agreed. It's not about the concert only. I am a person who lives alone, and my family lives in a different town. I see people on their birthday getting tagged in shit ton of stories or posts, but no one ever tags me. I didn't even got a call from my family. I had a friend who used to call it at exactly 12, but today I didn't even get that call. I asked my office colleagues to celebrate my birthday with me, and I will sponsor liquors and cakes and everything. Yet they said they had planned for weekends. I hope I'm not a terrible person. But I always wished people on time. I never purposefully hurt anyone, but if I did, I am sorry. I never did that though. I think they did not like how I look. Maybe I have vitiligo and I'm not that successful for my age because I'm a little underconfident. Is that why people hate me? I don't know why people hate me, because if I am unsuccessful, I can be successful. But that's not it. Maybe they hate that I have vitiligo. Maybe that's the reason. But I didn't ask for it. I just got it. But can people just hate me just because I have vitiligo? I think so. I wouldn't hate anyone though. I love all kind of people. Even the one who literally beaten the shit out of me when I was school because I got offended because they were making jokes on my skin condition. Maybe I shouldn't got offended at that time, and they were only having fun. I could have ignored them, or maybe laughed with them. That might have resulted in a good friendship, maybe. They might have wished me. I think I was always the problem. That's why not even my parents loves me as they love my brother. He's successful, he's abroad with his wife and a dog. They are amazing. They didn't wish me, though it's okay. It's still not over his office hours. He is 6 hours behind, so he might have forgotten, and it's okay. He's busy, but he was the only one who understood me. But then, when he got married and he got busy, and it's understandable, hope he becomes more successful. Even last year, he forgot my birthday because he had this big project he was working. My friend that always called me. He didn't call though, he said he was traveling, might be that. I think people forget me because I'm not that important, and that's fine. I don't add anything, but only takes... I think I am terrible for not adding value in life of people. Maybe after that, only people will call me on my birthday. But I think it's too late now, because I think if I leave now, no one would be that hurt, as they already created distance from me, and they won't feel sad. I am a terrible person, and maybe that's why my ex got married to someone else. She took a right decision, who wants a person who will always be vulnerable in front of them. Although I was strong when she told me that she's getting married in 3 weeks, and her roca is day after tomorrow. I didn't shed a single tear and didn't utter an emotional word. I just left saying, "Congratulations, enjoy your life." She might thought I am heartless. Well, I was heartbroken, not heartless, but I can understand her POV. I think you can understand why I'm a terrible person. And isn't it better to sleep forever not knowing what happened to you? Edit. I don't know what to write now, just that there are literally close to 2K people that actually wanted to be my friend and wished me. I was crying last night that not even single person called or messaged. And I woke up with so many wishes. My phone is heating because of all the notifications I have been getting. I woke up and it's 7:25 a.m. exactly, 7 hours when I started writing that post. And I think this could have been the best thing I can ask for. I saw a few comments that people want to come and attend concert with me, and I would definitely love that. Everyone, thank you so much in understanding. I will go through each comment and will try to reply all 200 plus of you in my DM. I just can't believe last night I was feeling extremely lonely while looking at this screen and typing this. And right now there are 2,000 people who are there for me, rooting for me from the same screen. Thank you so much, Reddit, for showing me that world is not that bad as I thought it was. Thank you, everyone. This is definitely some kind of miracle or a sign, and I love you all for that. Edit 2. I love you all. Thanks for reaching out in my inbox, and I think this is the best gift I can ever ask. Coldplay. Mumbai concert was attended by 60K people, and I have more upvotes than that. That means there are more people here for me than they are there in the stadium. I am really thankful to you guys. My post was deleted, so I could not update you guys. I invited 2 friends to attend with me on concert, and they agreed. A lot of things have been very positive with me in past few days, and I think it's all because of you guys. I am not a YouTuber, but I'm definitely going to make a video on this and upload it as my first video in the next 15 days, because this needs to be out there in the world, that Reddit is just amazing and how it can actually help people, because I don't know how to really thank you all, guys. I killed an elderly man in front of his wife and basically his entire family. Forgive me for any misspellings or format. I'm trying to do this on my phone. I haven't talked about this to anyone, even though it's been years, not even my closest friends, minus the ones that were there. One night when I was in college, I was driving to get some liquor for a party my fraternity was supposed to throw the following night. I was taking a street I was very familiar with to get back to my house. It was dark, but the street was lit with street lamps. I remember that I looked at my radio for a second, just a second, not very long at all. But when I looked back up to the road, there was a man crossing. I didn't have any time to react. By the time I saw him, he had already hit the hood of my car and bounced off the side. I remember screaming and hitting the brakes and the wash of horror of what had just happened. I'll admit that I had thought about speeding away, but I pulled over to the side and ran out of my car to check on this guy. When I got to him, his family was standing outside the restaurant he was leaving, and they were all screaming and crying. He was laying on the side of the road with blood coming out of his nose and mouth. 2 other men were standing with him trying to see if he was all right and calling 911. All I could say was, I didn't see him. I was frantic by the time it had set in what I had done. I sat on the curb across from the family and listened to their crying in agony while we waited for the paramedics to arrive. I sat there and sobbed while the paramedics took him away in an ambulance. I don't believe I've ever cried so hard and for so long. The worst part about all of it, and what still kills me today, was that his wife came over to me while I was distraught on that curb, sat next to me, placed her hand on my shoulder and said, I was married to him for almost 50 years. We had a good life. Then she hugged me and said that she forgave me. After everything was said and done, it was ruled that it was an accident. I wasn't charged with anything, and I had one of my friends pick me up from the police station. I went down a dark path the years after that. I drank heavily, dropped out of college in my senior year, and had to move back in with my mother and father because I couldn't hold on to a job. I even tried to kill myself with pills. It was a hard road to recovery, which I feel I'm not fully recovered from, nor do I feel I ever will be the same. But eventually, I got my life back in order. I joined up with the Navy and saw a bit of the world, and now I'm on track to go back to college and hopefully finish what I started there. It took almost a decade, but I finally start to feel almost whole again. I'm back to hanging with my friends and actually going out. So maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Wow, you guys are awesome. Thanks for the support and feedback. I've never really posted anything on Reddit before because people can be assholes, but all these kind words are moving. Thank you, and big thanks to whoever reformatted my post. I'm shit at this, so thanks, homie. My aunt hit my mother, so I dragged her across the floor and punched her till she passed out. My aunt is a poisonous woman. Our whole family doesn't talk to her. She's done things in the past you wouldn't believe, so she left our lives years ago. Recently, she returned out of the blue at my mom's house. My mom has 2 other sisters and a brother. My mom and aunt never got on. My mom is a lovely person, but she could sense from a young age that something was off about her sister, so she kept her distance. My aunt was nasty and would hurt people's feelings intentionally for no reason. She never had a partner or kids. She isolated herself from everyone. My gran cut her off when she tried to steal thousands of dollars from her. We all genuinely think there's something psychologically wrong with her. So back to where I was going with this. One morning, I was at my mom's house just chilling out and there was a knock at the door. So I opened it, and there she was. She walked in. She looked like she had taken drugs. She looked dead behind the eyes. I tried to stop her, but she pushed me down. I honestly don't know why she came to my mom's house out of everyone. I quickly got up and she went into the kitchen. She startled my mom and punched her in the face. My mom didn't even have a chance to blink before she hit her. She went down like a ton of bricks. My heart felt like it had been sucked through into my stomach when I saw it. Something came over me. I don't know if it was anger or adrenaline, but I ran up behind her and grabbed her hair and I dragged her out onto the back lawn and I bashed her face about 15 times. Blood was everywhere. Thankfully, no one saw me or I might not have been writing this right now. I got up and left her there. I went to check on my mom. She was in a lot of pain. I looked back out the window and she was gone. We told our family immediately about this, and they were perplexed and angry as to why she just turned up and attacked my mom. I'm still so hurt and angry as I write this, but I also feel tremendously guilty and upset that I did that to her, because I've never fought anyone, and I'm not a fighter at all. But something came over me and I snapped. I can't get over it for some reason. It just seemed so unreal, and there was no reason for the attack. God forbid she had a weapon. That's truly scary to think about. We didn't call the police as I assaulted her badly and didn't want it to bounce back on me. That's another thing I feel ashamed about. But should I feel bad or not? I need others' opinions as I've been bottling this up for a while. My gran was devastated. She just wanted her daughter back, but from a young age, she took to drugs, spent time in prison, and did a number of other things. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be saved. I poured skunk tincture all along my neighbors' windows so they'd be quieter. They were so loud all the time. I tried talking to them, telling them my boyfriend and I work at a coffee shop and bakery and our hours were really early. I bribed them with treats I made. They were constantly opening their windows and playing their music so loud for hours at all hours. Even their conversations were loud. With their windows open, even with mine closed, I would know when their mom was visiting, when their boyfriends weren't texting them back, or when they got their nails done. I did everything to cover it up, music of my own, fans for white noise, TV, etc. It's like they knew when I was actively trying and stepped up their game to be louder. Eventually, we tried talking to landlords, made noise complaints, everything. They just learned how to be sneaky about being loud. Eventually, it got spiteful. Putting music in the window, screaming and banging on the walls. Our houses weren't connected, but there was maybe a max of 10 feet in between with a sidewalk going through. I was getting really stressed out, losing sleep, couldn't relax in my house, was getting sent home from work because I was so tired. It got really bad and I had no idea what to do. Nothing we had done up to this point had worked. When I'd explain my situation, people would come up with funny revenge ideas. None of them stuck like the skunk tincture did to me. I could feel it in my bones, it would work. So I ordered some on Amazon, and one morning as I left for work, I dumped it all along the side of their house that they keep the windows open on. It smelled so bad I was worried I was going to get some on me and I'd smell bad at work. I didn't. Fast forward a couple of hours, and I get a notification on our camera that there's motion. It faced in between the two houses along the sidewalk, the place I dumped the tincture. One of the girls was walking back and forth up the sidewalk, spraying the rocks under the windows with Lysol. I watched it for a while, and more came out. One opened the window and pulled the screen off and wiped it all down. Eventually, a maintenance guy showed up, then the gas company. I kind of started to panic at that point. I felt kind of bad, like maybe I had gone too far. I don't think they ever figured it out or suspected me. For the next 2 months, those windows stayed shut and I barely heard anything from them. It was so peaceful. I couldn't believe it worked. I lied to my mom about going to college. I am going to confess tomorrow. I don't know what will happen next. Some context. I am 19 from Europe, but I moved to Canada with my parents when I was 10. When I was 17, my mom found out that my dad had been cheating on her. They divorced. That was that. I was never really all that close to my dad, so I was able to get over it relatively quickly, but it really broke my mom. Here we were, in a foreign country on the other side of the world with no people we knew, and now my dad was gone too. Not fun. I knew that what would make her happiest was if I went to college, so I applied, waited for a response, and I was declined. Crap. So I made an impulsive, stupid decision that is just now coming to bite me in the ass over a year later. I told her that I had been accepted when I really wasn't. So I sat around for a few months, not doing anything, then started college back in September, finished the first semester in March, and that was that. I have done some academic upgrading courses and applied to college again to start later this year, and I'm hoping I'll get accepted this time, but that's not the point of this. Today, my mom went to do her taxes. I don't work or anything, so I didn't go. But then she called me and the lady there talk to me. She needed my T22202, my student tax receipt, something I would get by logging into the school website. I lied to her and told her I forgot my ID number, and since this was late, I couldn't call the school today to get it. So the lady told me I would need to get it tomorrow, and I agreed. Only one problem. I have never actually gone to school, so I can't get that thing. Problem. I thought about other ways to approach this. Maybe forge a copy, maybe call that lady and only tell her I lied and ask her to keep it a secret. Maybe just deny everything and say the school fucked up some data somewhere, but I've decided to just tell my mom and the lady, I guess, tomorrow. It is 1 a.m. right now, my mom is sleeping, and I am currently on my phone, shitting myself over what could happen. I have no clue. Will I get kicked out? Will we move back to Europe? My mom doesn't like Canada, said she is only staying for me. Guess I will find out in a few hours. Wish me luck. I caused a girl to commit suicide back in 1986, and I have never told anyone about it. So this was back in 1986 when I had just turned 16. I-48F met a girl while I was out riding my horse. She shared similar views on horses, etc., and she was 21, so OMG, she was so mature. A few months later, she talked me into going out with her for a night. We were both living in the same small country, Australian town. I had practically no experience with boys. I think I was more interested in horses. And while I had both male and female friends, the furthest I had ever gone was to kiss a boy during a summer holiday. So we go on our night out. We start at a local pub. I am new to drinking. 18 is the legal age, but I never get carded. With makeup on, I look old enough, I guess. A group of guys start chatting us up, and we end up playing pool for a couple of hours. It's getting to around 10 p.m., and the guys mention that they're going to a party soon, and we get invited. Sounds like fun. One of the guys then comments to his mate, who is getting kinda handsy with me, that his mate M, should drop his girlfriend and go out with me. I don't remember exactly how I reacted to this. TBS, I don't think I even said anything. But I know pretty soon after, we all piled into someone's car and headed to the party. I had no further contact with the guy from that point on for the rest of the night. I know I didn't look for him at the party or think I was going out with him or anything. Once we got to the party, my friend and I hung out in the backyard. There was a fire, a bunch of cheap plastic chairs, and plenty of alcohol going around. My friend turned to me and said, "Hey, that's M's girlfriend." I turned and saw a girl. G. We both went to the same school and were in the same year, coming toward me, looking absolutely furious. She stood in front of me, looking like she wanted to punch me, and I said to her, "Hi, G. Fancy seeing you here," with an honest and friendly smile on my face. I felt I had done nothing wrong and that I deserved a chance to tell her so. She just stood there. I could see her anger ebbing off her as she stood there. Then she turned and walked away. My friend and I somehow ended up staying at a male friend of hers' house. The guy took us to his place, showed us where to sleep, then went off and left us to it. The next day, my friend and I returned to the same pub and were commiserating a bit on mild hangovers. We quietly had a beer, and then I heard the bartender mention to someone, "It's so horrible to hear what happened to G last night." I felt myself go stone cold and listened in as I heard the story. G had found out her boyfriend was cheating on her the night before at a party, so she took a gun to bed and shot herself in the head. Her boyfriend, M, went home from the party, hopped into bed with her, and went to sleep. He woke up in the morning and found himself lying in her blood and discovered G was dead. A few years later, I found out that the friend was actually working as a prostitute, and pretty much all of the town knew it, except me, I guess. So me being with her, it was automatically assumed that I was too. I didn't have any contact with the friend after this night. I feel the same physically sick feeling now when I tell this as I did on that day in the pub when I found out what had happened. I remember I went to the bathroom and threw up. My friend came in and joked that I was pregnant. I went to the mirror, and from my chin down, I had come up in a red rash. I left the pub and walked myself home, about 10 kilometers. I know it was me that G thought he was cheating with. That is why she stormed up to me. I just wish she had hit me, that I hadn't diffused the situation between us. I guess I have kept this secret so long that I know I only have my own view on what happened, hence my post here. Edit. Thank you to everyone who has replied to me. I don't know what I expected out of this when I posted, but I can tell you what I did get. I have been going through a depression about 2 years now, and this is one of the scenarios that I have been replaying in my mind with a big dose of all the old guilt. I was pretty powerless against it, as I only had my own opinion of it. I guess that is why I posted, because I need to put this away, mark it done, and move on. I was also able to finally share this story with my husband. When I sent the post to him, he didn't realize it was my post. I guess I was still a bit afraid of his reaction. When he read it, I asked him what he thought. He said, "Imagine what that poor girl was thinking." That's when I told him it was my story and burst into tears. He was pretty shocked, but he's an amazing guy and gave me a giant hug, telling me, "It's not your fault," over and over. We are both booked in to see my therapist next week. I can finally talk about her. I am feeling pretty good now. 1,000,000 times thank you, kind internet strangers. I destroyed my work project and I hope I get fired. This is petty. I don't care. I've worked at a company for 2 years. In that time, I've gone from an incredible asset to the company to babysitter. I wish I was joking. This company is owned by several people, but managed by a relative of the higher-ups, a guy who has never worked for anyone except his mommy, who owns the company, a guy who is incapable of doing basically anything for himself, someone who will one day take over the company, who currently can't even figure out Bluetooth. Moron would be a compliment. You think I'm just being harsh on my boss or exaggerating? I wish. I wish it was just me being dramatic. Last phone call I had from him was him asking where he was. No, I'm serious. Foot, I'm driving. Where am I? He asks me to track his phone, find his location, see if I can find a store near him that sells a certain item that he can't remember the name of the store either, or where it is exactly. And then I am to GPS voice navigate him there using track his phone to tell him when to turn. This is my life. 50 plus phone calls a day from this man. Foot, did you get my email? Yes, I responded to it and answered your questions. Oh good. Read it out to me. Proceed to read the email to him. He is happy. Fast forward 2 hours. Get a scathing email from him, responding to my reply. Foot, why did you email me again when we just talked about this on the phone? This wastes my time. I no longer do my regular job. I've been transitioned into this personal assistant role, even though I did not want it. at all, to the point I'm currently searching for a new job. The company is bleeding money like someone cut off both of its legs. Boss is supposed to be figuring out why, but the guy can't even pour himself a cup of coffee from the machine we've had for 6 years. In my day-to-day, I also assist other departments. I have access to various software. I work alongside multiple managers and assist with their projects as well. When I'm not being asked to identify the brand of socks boss is wearing so that he can figure out where to buy more, and have me call to have them set aside a package for me so I don't have to walk through the store looking for these like an idiot. Based on my observations, I found several problems that are costing us money, either by purchasing, distribution, or just a general lack of adequate price adjustments. Some were serious enough that I even spoke to a different department manager who was impressed and took me to the CEO to ask if I can be moved to their department to help fix some of the identified problems. CEO is boss's mother. I get told that I absolutely am not allowed to transfer, that I am far too valuable as a personal assistant to be shared with other departments, that boss will handle and oversee the changes that need to be made. Manager and I were stunned. Turns out mother wants to step away from the company and wants boss to run it. That boss just needs more projects to work on to get a better understanding of how to run the company. Boss gets called in, told that I identified several issues and that boss needs to get them resolved. Boss gets mad at mother, telling her he doesn't have time to do that. Mother says she understands that he is a very busy boy. Again, I'm not joking. Sitcoms can't even write this kind of shit. Boss later calls me into his office and tells me that I am to work on fixing all of these issues, but that I'm to give him all my notes, tell him how I fixed it, and he will present it to the board. Boss then proceeds to leave for the day, calling me later to ask what kind of mustard was the mustard he liked the most on his deli sandwiches. Then proceeded to lecture me on mustard because the answer I gave him was obviously not the right kind of mustard, and that I need to pay more attention to things like that. I hung up the phone, picked up all my notes on this bleeding money situation project, and shredded them. Oops. Sorry. I'm too much of an idiot to handle doing any type of investigation work into our financial records for the past 5 years. I'm certainly too much of an idiot to notice that your profit margins went from 32% to less than 18.3% on the majority of our products we manufacture, all the while giving our distributors more than 46% discount so that they keep coming back for more. Here's hoping boss can figure that out, especially considering the layoffs we keep having. Excuse me while I make note of what kind of mustard he prefers on his Montreal smoked meat sandwich, which is a much more important use of my time, because in the words of boss, maybe one day you'll be capable like me if you keep working at it. I hope I get fired. After 13 years clean and 8 years of marriage, I did heroin 3 weeks ago and almost came close to fully relapsing. I was a heroin addict in the Lower East Side of Manhattan in the 1990s as a teen. I got clean at 21 years old after years of abuse. I got married at 26 to my amazing and beautiful wife. She knows I was an addict. I spent all these years not even really thinking that much about the concept of relapsing. It had been so long. I still thought about it, but with marriage and my kids and everything, the thought of it was just so ridiculously out of sight to even consider trying it again. 3 weeks ago, it was my friend's birthday. He is 4 years younger than me, so of course he wants to go to some cool, hip, sketchy bar club thing in Bushwick. I got drunk, really drunk. I hadn't really drunk much at all in the past few years, so my tolerance was way lower than expected. There was a dealer outside and a few other junkies nearby. I don't even fully remember what happened. I just remember going with them, abandoning my friend at the bar, it was like 1 a.m. anyway, and going to some apartment and shooting up. I spent the night there, then all the way until noon the next day. I had 10 missed calls. I panicked when I came out of my daze. I told my wife I had gotten way too drunk and was puking, and my phone was out of battery, so I stayed at Charlie's house. She was disappointed I didn't tell her, but also thought it was funny because she used to tease me for not being able to handle my liquor. This was an I told you so moment. She had told me not to drink too much before I went to the bar. She wasn't even in New York. She was at a summer house with the kids in Massachusetts. I spent the next 4 days until they got back just riddled with anxiety, urges to get more heroin, horrific mind zaps. I don't even know what to call them. It was in some ways worse than my withdrawal symptoms when I first was an addict. Not because of the physical feeling, but the horrible mental feeling of what I was possibly giving up. My wife and kids. I wanted to fucking get more so badly. I left my house to find heroin 4 fucking times. 4 times I gave up to get more, but wasn't able to find any and snapped back to reality and went back home. I still thank fucking God I did not somehow run into some street dealer during those 4 times. I would have absolutely done it. I feel like everything I thought about myself, that I was strong, that my addiction was behind me, that I had beaten heroin, it was all gone. I am not going to say I am back at square one or anything. I am not. But I feel like something inside of me has reset. My unwavering strength against addiction was broken at the slightest temptation. I still am weak. Heroin is so much stronger than me. It's truly unbelievable how much stronger it is than me. When I was young, my aunt had cancer. She beat it. Then it came back soon after, and she beat it again. It didn't come back, and we loved how strong she was for fighting her cancer and that she had overcome it. She lived with us. I remember her feeling of strength after her 2nd year of not having cancer, her 3rd year, her 6th year. It finally felt like it was gone for good. Her thinking, it's finally behind me now, it's a part of my past, and then it just fucking came back. 9 years after her first diagnosis, it came back and killed her. I remember her feelings and how she felt about it. So many years after she thought it had gone away, that is how I feel. Like a cancer which I thought I got rid of a decade ago, just showed back up on my screening. The first 5 to 6 days after I tried it, that time outside the bar, were the worst. My kids and wife have come back. The urges mostly went away the second I saw my kids. I hugged them so damn hard, and I never told my family what happened, nor will I ever. My wife never understood that side of me. She met me 5 whole years after I was clean. I just cannot have her know. Ever. I won't do it again. I am planning on not drinking to excess like that again, except maybe in very specific situations like at the summer house where there is no option of drugs. I mean, not like I want to get drunk again, like that, but just in case I ever want to get loose. I am never doing that in the city again. I am still about 90% sure that I won't ever touch heroin again. I am still positive in myself about it. It's just, it used to be 99% sure. That is what fucking terrifies me. I said heroin is stronger than me. It is absolutely stronger than me. But the reason I won't ever do it again is that it isn't stronger than my family, my wife and kids. I don't care about how good it feels. I will not subject my wife and children to me being an addict. I would rather just kill myself than that. I, 20 male, have been hiding tens of thousands from my parents for years. At the start of high school, I was pretty broke, as many high school kids are. To gain more freedom, I worked hard to start my career as a 3D artist, and I was making a couple hundred every few weeks at best during most of high school. Even with how little I made compared to how hard I worked, my mom and stepdad would pressure me to chip in for the groceries and mortgage payments. Keep in mind, we aren't poor or anything. We were middle class, and they just wanted more financial freedom for themselves, so they could consistently go on luxury vacations. I also have a few siblings now in the higher years of high school who they also do the bare minimum for, not bad enough to where it's child neglect, but definitely not great parenting, considering none of us could focus on our studies while having to work. The creative industry is difficult and unforgiving, and I put blood, sweat, and tears into my work to get where I am at this age. I'm not going to let them pressure me into making any big contributions to their finances so that they can keep going on excessive vacationing sprees. Only me and my girlfriend know how much I really make. I have been saving tens of thousands of dollars without anyone else around me knowing. One day they'll find out how much I have, but for now, I will bide my time and take advantage of as little financial burden as possible. Once they do, I'll simply move out and be done with them. Edit. Thanks a lot for the advice and comments, everyone. Just to clarify, I do, of course, take care of my own expenses and my siblings, since I wouldn't want them to be overburdened like I was. I am not pitching into the household bills because they don't deserve it. They are very, very much fully capable of handling everything comfortably if they just tone down their luxurious lifestyle. And I would just be reinforcing their irresponsible behavior by helping more. I snooped on the CEO's email account and got myself unfired. A couple of years out of college, I worked as an analyst at a pretty small private equity firm. The CEO was one of the biggest assholes I've ever met. He was fairly young, in his 40s, a multimillionaire, and the type of guy driven solely by money with zero business ethics. He'd do anything to get the upper hand in a deal, regardless of who it screwed over. Contractors, employees. I even saw him seriously fuck over a longtime family friend of his without any remorse. Anyway, aside from my analyst role, as it was a really small business, only about 20 people in the office, and then a bunch of people working remote, I also happened to be one of the only semi-technology literate people in the company. So, like many of my generation, I became the de facto millennial office computer guy, too. Despite my lack of qualifications, I got put in charge of handling pretty much anything minor tech-related. Setting up servers, fixing laptop issues, answering how do I convert this to PDF questions, even basic network security. They thought I was some sort of computer genius, but really I was just mostly winging it, Googling pretty much everything, but eventually I got legitimately pretty good at all the tech stuff. They gave me bigger tasks like planning all of the computer systems for their own businesses and supervising installs. I didn't get paid extra for any of this, mind you. After a couple of years of serious bullshit working there, I was pretty worn out. I wasn't progressing. I hated working for Captain Douchebag. He treated everyone like shit. I was pulling 12 to 14 plus hour days with no overtime or performance bonus, and they weren't paying me nearly what they should have. I also hated being the tech guy and was depressed as fuck, basically living in a cubicle. So I decided I had had enough of the 9/8 life working for assholes, and I would start my own consulting business, working for myself. However, instead of quitting right away, I figured it would be smart to first build up my client base on the side while I was still getting a steady paycheck. So that's what I did. I launched my company and landed my first clients. As the workload increased, I slowly started spending more and more time working on my side business while at my office job. At first, I was pretty low-key about it, but eventually, it was blatant. As it was a super small company, I was the only one who knew how to do a lot of important tasks and operate some key internal systems. It was easy for me to tell my boss a project was taking a whole week to complete that I actually finished in 10 minutes. Pretty soon, I was spending 80% of my day working on my own stuff in the office. I'd even take calls from my side business clients at my desk. The rest of the time, I was usually dicking around on Reddit or something. Of course, we had systems in place to monitor network activity, but I was the person in charge of monitoring it. This continued for a while. As my own business ramped up, I cared less and less about the office job. And since I hated waking up early, I began rolling into work late. At first, it was only 30 minutes or so. Then it progressed to an hour. When my boss didn't reprimand me, it became clear how much they needed me there. I took full advantage of this. Before long, I was arriving around noon, working for a couple of hours, then heading home. My coworkers weren't happy, but I helped them with all of their tech problems, and they hated the company too, so they kept their mouths shut about it. My boss eventually said something to me about all of it at one point, but I just came in on time the next few days and then went back to coming in whenever I wanted. After more than 2 months of coming in 4 to 5 hours late and working on my side business in full view of my asshole boss, I couldn't believe I wasn't fired yet. I deserved it and felt it was inevitable. On a hunch, I decided to do a little investigative work. As I was the tech guy, I also had full access to the company email server. So I logged into the CEO's personal email account and searched for my name. Lo and behold, there was a recent email thread between him, my direct boss, and some other team members with my name in the subject line. Obviously, I open it. They're discussing my recent performance issues. The last email in the chain basically said, if nobody has any objections, I will be terminating him at the end of the week, 2 days from then. I wasn't surprised, but I decided there was no way I was going to let these assholes fire me. Although I didn't give a shit about that job, I didn't want to have a termination in my work history. I also wanted to keep getting paid for a while longer. Of course, I couldn't let him know I actually knew I was getting canned. So, I formulated a plan to perform a little inception reverse psychology mindfuck on the CEO. The next day, one day before they planned to fire me, I requested a meeting with him to discuss my current performance. In that meeting, I sat down and he asked me what I wanted to talk about. So I told him, paraphrased, "Look, I know I've been a shitty employee lately. I'm sure you've noticed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been kind of getting the feeling you guys are planning to let me go soon." When I said that, the shocked look on his face was priceless. He must have thought I was psychic to work that out on my own the day before it was going to happen. I remember him just saying something like, I continued while he sat flabbergasted. "So, I'll be honest with you, my heart isn't in this job anymore. As you know, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, which I'm sure you can relate to. I want to start my own company. However, as you're aware, I have a lot of responsibilities here nobody else can do." I then proceeded to list all of the things I did and projects I was working on. I could see it on his face when the realization sunk in of how screwed he'd be if I left suddenly. So here's what I propose. You don't fire me. I don't quit. I keep working here for a month, finish my current projects, and train whoever you want on everything I'm in charge of. After a month is up, I will continue to come in once per week until it's complete. After that, if you still need me, you can pay me on an hourly, project-by-project basis. I intentionally mentioned the possibility of me quitting so he could feel like he won the negotiation, even though I technically had him by the balls. He paused to think for a minute, then said something along the lines of, "Okay, you have a deal." So, not only did I get myself unfired, I actually turned the company into a paying client. During that month, I continued doing pretty much whatever I wanted since I had an expiration date, while training my replacement as promised. After the month was up, they hit me up regularly for remote task work. I charged them triple what I was earning while working there and barely had to deal with the CEO. My client base was big enough that I dropped them for good. After all that, the CEO still calls me up for advice, questions, nearly 3 years later. These days I just blow him off, saying, "Sorry, I'm too busy." Edit. As it seems there's some doubt that this actually happened, it did. I figured I'd clarify a few points. This was a very small company. The office had about 20 people in it, and several dozen more worked remotely. If you've never worked in a small office before, I can assure you it's pretty normal for employees to wear many hats and take on random roles outside their initial scope. It's also pretty normal for them to be severely lacking in network security and controlling passwords. I did not become some computer genius and never claimed to be, though my company of technology illiterate baby boomers sometimes thought of me that way. I had decent basic working knowledge coming into the job and picked up more over the several years I was there. For anything complicated, like wiring, hardware installs, advanced networking tasks, etc., we hired outside IT consultants, but I was the guy who would source them, hire them, supervise them, and learn the systems they put in place. And I just handled more basic tasks myself. We're also not talking about enterprise-level security here either. My consulting business has nothing to do with private equity. I'm not going to reveal exactly what I do for privacy's sake since this blew up, but it's in marketing. I didn't steal any of my old company's clients when I left and don't compete with them. Yes, I'm fully aware and admit I was an asshole, hence posting this in r/confession. In fact, I decided to start my own company because I hate working for other people without my own skin in the game. I'm not a great employee when I don't care about what I'm doing. However, the guys running the company were pretty shitty people, and I did not feel that bad about it at the time. The thing I did have reservations about was snooping on the emails. I do not condone invading privacy like that. However, he'd freely given me the passwords, so I could help him set up his Outlook, forwarding, etc., and I felt me getting fired was inevitably coming soon. For 3 years, I switched my partner's tea in the morning because I couldn't deal with his fake snobbery. When my ex and I started dating, I used to make him a morning cup of tea as a cute gesture, and it stuck for the 3 years that we were together. It's a nice small thing you can do to make someone's day, and it's a nice way to get to know how someone likes things done. So my morning tea used to be any old tea bag, Yorkshire tea if it was on offer, a splash of milk, and the first cup always had a teaspoon of sugar. Every cup after was just tea and milk. My ex, however, had to have a very specific ritual: Thompson's Punjana tea, a teaspoon of milk and absolutely no sugar. He was adamant that he could tell in a heartbeat when his morning cup of tea was different, and at the age of 33, he's never liked any other tea other than Fortnum & Mason's Royal Blend. So in the beginning, when he would stay at mine, I entertained this notion and used to make his morning tea the way he liked. Thompson's Punjana tea, a teaspoon of milk, and absolutely no sugar. He would always thank me and tell me that I make the best cups of tea. And it was nice. 3 times a week didn't kill me, and it was a sweet gesture. Fast forward 3 months when he would spend nearly every day of the week at mine, but not moved in. He was very demanding of his morning ritual. And being a student, I couldn't keep affording to buy that brand of tea. Besides, what was wrong with PG Tips or any non-branded supermarket tea? Tea is tea, after all. So I used to always make his cup of tea with any tea bag, a teaspoon of milk, and no sugar. I was always sure to only make it when he was in the shower or still in bed so he could never catch me out. And initially, he was dubious and was always asking to make sure it was Thompson's Punjana tea. He used to call it by its full name to emphasize how good it was. After a few trials of different teas, I finally found that sweet point where he couldn't taste the difference. I would drink it with him, and as he sipped, he would go on about how you can taste the quality and that there is really no other tea like it. When we moved in with each other, it was a lot harder to disguise the fact that I was keeping the same box of tea and just filling it with regular tea bags, so I had to be a bit more clever. At the time, I was studying at college, so I was in control of weekly food shops and only really wanted to go twice a week to minimize costs, so we had more to spend on meals out. I used to buy 1 bag of his tea and 2 bags of mine a week and kept them in the drinks cupboard. When it came to making his in the morning, I would take one of his tea bags and put it in my pocket, giving him one of mine instead. And I used to give my tutors at college his tea to drink during the day. He would always comment that I ran out quicker of my tea bags because of the quality, and that with Punjana, 1 bag is enough for a considerable amount of time. Little did he know. This went on for a couple of years, and I never told anyone about it out of fear that he would find out. After all, he really couldn't tell, so why ruin the fun? It was saving me money, and it was sort of amusing. I never let him make a cup of tea unless I was away, so he never really had to find out. After we split up, we remained good friends, and I've spent some time with him too in our old flat. Every time I visit, he always asks me to make a cup of tea the way I used to for old times' sake, because everyone he's been with or dated after me can never make it taste the way I did. He even says that when he makes it himself with Punjana, he could never make it taste right, and that I was some sort of special tea maker. I still haven't told him. This is a long post about tea, so the TLDR. My ex used to act like he was very fussy with tea. I switched his morning cup to a considerably cheaper tea bag, and he could never tell the difference, still can't. I lied on my resume, and the company that made an offer noticed. I often fudge on how much I know of a thing. Maybe I worked with the software for a few weeks 3 years ago and used it just fine. They want expert level. I say I'm expert. I get the job, and all I do is log in, pull data, and log out. Less than I did 3 years ago. Update the bottom. 99% of the time as a contractor, I don't even do what they hired me for. I do a job that's beneath me. Here's what they do. Let's call them a fake name of ABC Fargo or XYZ Bank America. ABC Fargo Company has a need for someone to create spreadsheets and process maps, documenting a network topology. They've had flakes in the role before, technical people who have no interpersonal skills and no business acumen. They work slow, don't understand the big picture, don't keep people updated, etc. Maybe paying them $45. So they hire me, an IT project manager with a background 20 plus years ago as a data network engineer, paying me $90 per hour, giving me the title of applications program manager with a fancy job description with a bunch of shit I won't be doing, but one line in there that says I need to know how to document a network. They figure they will aim high, pay high, just so they can be sure to get someone who can work well with other departments to gather the information, keep everything on schedule, not drop out of sight, and do clean, efficient work. They don't care about my career and that this job is a step backward, and when I go to get my next job as a project or program manager, it makes me look bad if I say what I was really doing. They figure the pay is so high, I'm working from home, by the time I figure it out, I'll stay for the money, which I do. But my skills don't grow, so I lie on my resume. Yeah. I did extensive and complicated project management for ABC Fargo for a year with a budget and toll gates and scrums and project plans and clearing roadblocks. No way I'm going to say I just did spreadsheets and Visio diagrams day in and day out for a whole year. This has happened on the last 6 contracts I've worked. They lie, I lie. We're even. So I keep the fancy job description. I make up project accomplishments. Everything on there I know how to do. It's just not 100% honest. So this time, I was finding it hard to find another role since my last contract completed in April 2024. So I started fudging the dates so it looked like I did less contracting and stayed places a little longer. Sometimes contracting makes you look flaky, but the money is good. As soon as I changed up the dates, I got interviews, literally the next day after I started using the fudged dates. In my experience, that initial resume never seems to make it to HR. They look at the application. I never lie on the application. Dates and titles are correct. I leave the job duty stuff, though. They can't verify that. I've never been called on it until last week. People are often incompetent, and it usually works in my favor. They're not paying much attention in how they do their jobs. I'm posting now because it's all complete, and I started yesterday. Here's how it went down. One of the recruiters for the agency was getting on my nerves, calling me all day asking for information he could have just put in an email at the end of the day. He wanted to do a mock interview, and I told him to take a hike. I'm old as fuck and don't need interview help. I think he got offended and decided to try and trip me up. He has never called or emailed me since then. His boss does. I have an interview to contract for EFG Saks. I have worked for this agency before at XYZ Chaser Banker in 2023, so they only need to verify the last contract I had after 2023, right? Nope. Somehow they're verifying everything all over again. I get an email from the HR background check person. Your resume says this, but your application says this. I was like, oh shit, it's finally caught up with me. It was a Friday afternoon, so I let it lay and took time to figure it out over the weekend. I was prepared to lose the offer, so that made it easy to be confident about my response, which was plainly and simply, I recently had my resume professionally rewritten, and it looks like I didn't double-check the dates. Everything on the application is correct and verifiable. No apology, no long-winded explanation. They accepted that, and everything moved forward with them verifying. Whether they thought I was lying, I don't care. I got an email a few days later, background check complete. All of a sudden, last Friday, I get an email. Background check reopened. Gaslighting language, right? I was like, what is it now? I know the application was correct. Maybe they escalated to a manager about the resume and don't want to take a chance and upset their client, MNO Saks. Because if MNO wants to take me permanent as an employee, they will do their own verification and the agency would be on the hook. Turns out 2 of my old positions could not be verified. One wasn't answering, and the other had sold and merged with another firm. So I sent them W-2s for those 2 roles. See, that's why I don't lie on the application. Side note, they wanted me to either send pay stubs, W-2s, or give them access to my taxes. If they got access to my taxes, they'd see the times I was working for 2 companies at the same time. When I worked for them in ABC Fargo remote, I also worked remote for another company. It was the tail end of COVID, and I needed to make up for the times I had no contract. But I wasn't doing the work I was hired for. I was doing dumb work that wasn't challenging, so I worked 2 8 to 5s at once, succeeding at both. So use caution when showing them your taxes. They get to see everything that's not their business. The IRS sends your transcripts directly to them. Total invasion of privacy. So I won out on the application verification and started work yesterday. 2 days in the office, 3 at home, which leaves me room to do another contract, as I expect I've been lied to on this one as well. I've been out of work since April, and today is my last unemployment filing. There's only $57.65 left of my claim. 99% of the time you won't get caught, but be prepared for that one time. I'm 50 plus, and this is the first time I ever got called on it, and I firmly believe I was targeted because I told the dude to chill. I've even lied about a degree out of frustration, and it got me the interview. If I can interview, I'll get an offer. Do what you have to do to get that interview. Don't take it too far and lie completely. Fudge the dates and the titles and the duties. Don't straight out lie about working somewhere you didn't, or put duties you have no idea how to perform. Everything on my resume I can do. Tips. If it's been a while, look at some YouTube training to get back up to speed or be able to discuss intelligently. Jot down keywords and definitions on your printed job description. Always print out the JD and take notes on it, and have cliff notes as well. Include buzzwords like business partners, team members, Google interview buzzwords, and jot them down on the JD or on sticky notes somewhere you can glance at them during your video interview. Ace the interview by acting as though you already work for the company. You're just going to be working with a different department. Introduce yourself, ask them about how you can help, what they need you to do, say we and aren't us, and shit like that. Trick them into it. Use their names. Jot them down. Doofus. I'm bad at names too. You know, James mentioned earlier that he'd had a hard time getting the last person in the role to respond to emails. I understand what that can mean to you being able to complete your part of the work. I am mindful that my part affects someone else's work. But if you aren't getting what you need, please let me know, and I hope I can do the same. I value my team and don't mind having a tough conversation and hitting the reset button. Tell me, Sarah, what are you most proud about when it comes to your team? Mark, you worked closely with this role and you shared what you would need from me if I were to join the team. See how I did that. What are some things you don't want to see? They love this. They'll say, not double checking the reports, not responding in time for weekly reports, not admitting when something is not understood, etc. Just be relaxed and conduct yourself like you're in a conference call to work on a special project for a company you already work for. Tell them about you, ask about them, ask about the work. It will make you seem like part of the team, not some nervous weirdo acting like you're from Mars. Oh, one last thing. If I don't know something, I'll say I don't know, but I can find out and get back to you by end of business. Or let's set up a meeting and find out together and come back and let the team know. No one should ever just say, I don't know, and leave it at that. They were asking me some word and acronym definitions. And on one of them, I was like, I know about the subject, but I may not know the formal terms you're using, so let me give you my best guess. Risk control is different from risk mitigation in this way. Blah, blah. Is that what you were looking for? If I were on the team and someone asked me that, I'd give my best answer and tell them I'd check it out more and follow up by a specific time. I don't know all the answers, but I know how to find them. That's the key. Well, I know it's a novel, but I hope it helps. Update. People are DMing me asking about my career path and how I chose it. I just started with a job, and based on what I liked most, I grew that part and sought a job doing more of what I liked. In 1994, I worked as a staffing manager, getting people temporary jobs, making $8.75 their RRs, and placing people making $10 plus. We had to test them on software. A lot of people were great, but didn't know the software. I trained them on the side without permission and wrote some procedures/cheat sheet they could take on the job. They all got offered perm jobs, just needed a chance. I liked training, so I went after a job training and eventually got one. I lied on my resume to say I did training as a regular part of my job, a little fudge. I was training network engineers on software. then graduated to training how to engineer a piece of equipment. I went from $18,200 to $35K a year with no degree. Then I learned how much engineers made, and since I could train someone how to engineer, I took a job as a network engineer because of the money. When I was a network engineer, I worked with project managers a lot, so I looked for jobs project managing network projects. I had never done project management as a role, but I had seen it done over and over, so I lied on my resume and said that I had done project management. I then studied project management and got certificates and then got a junior project management job. September 11th hit, and I was laid off. I created a shitty website to advertise my training that I developed and became self-employed. The training was for people who had gotten jobs but didn't know how to use software. I volunteer at an after-school program that tutors elementary kids, and they have a computer lab. The founder let me use it on the weekends, which is when working people can come in to train. The city sent about 400 people over the course of a year into 2002. Long story short, I am capable. People kept asking me to do a website for them, so I taught myself web development and coding. I already knew database, SQL, and command line from my training and engineering roles. Websites got easier for people to do themselves with Wix, and more small businesses shifted to free pages on Facebook. Originally, Facebook did not allow businesses. So as my 15-year web business died, I saw a technical writer job in 2017 at a bank and became a technical writer, having written documentation in one form or another all my previous roles. I wrote policies and procedure documentation for everything and often came in contact with risk, compliance, audit. You have to keep your eyes open and not be that dumb person that only knows their own job and like saying, I don't know, that's not my department. From 2017 to now, I have accepted roles with the most money, $75 to $90/HR that I can get hired for. I have been project manager and program manager for IT and risk. I have been documentation manager. I pursue enterprise IT roles because IT pays more than operations. The job I started a couple days ago bounces me back down to technical writer, but in the job description and interview, I learned this is a new department. This means I will have an opportunity in the next year to be back in program management. I'm contract with a lot of experience, so my pay is the same as my IT, and I work remote 3 days a week. I prefer full remote. There are so many lies about job descriptions. I don't chase some pie-in-the-sky career. I need money. I am 54 years on come June and have had great experiences, but mostly terrible job experiences. I am still in touch with my instructor and network engineering pals, co-workers, and students from 1997 to 2001. Best jobs I've ever had. Nowadays, 80% is co-worker drama/politics and 20% is actual work. Show me the Quan. Jerry Maguire. When I was a server, I threw a customer's phone into a trash compactor. I had just started serving tables at a restaurant, and I was working my first super busy brunch shift. I had 6+ tables, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a tough time running all the mimosas that my tables were ordering. I could tell that one table of all women were getting abnormally angry about their drinks taking a while. I apologized for the delay and made a joke about it being an especially busy shift. I offered them a round of drinks on me to smooth the situation over. When I walked away, one lady murmured under her breath that I was an incompetent cunt. Let's stop there. It's common for people to treat servers like shit, but this was the first time I ever had experience being spoken to like I was garbage. I shook it off and continued to be nice to them, but it only got worse from there. They started to laugh at me and shit-talk me to one another. They told me that my future career looked pretty bleak, considering I couldn't even serve tables. Honey, even a toddler can deliver drinks. When I took their order for food, one woman refused to speak to me. She just stared at me while her friend ordered for her. By now, I am pissed. I asked her why she felt the need to have her friend order for her. She laughed in my face, looked down at the menu, and said, because I was a dumb little bitch. Due to the fact I was at work, I couldn't argue or tell her to eat shit for treating me like I was a dog. If I did, my boss would have fired me. They ended up stiffing me on their $200 check. Once they left, I realized the woman that gave me so much shit had left her phone. I took it and went out the back door to smoke a cigarette and try to calm down. Who the hell did that woman think she is? So I promptly turned off her phone, threw it in the trash compactor, and turned it on. She came back minutes later and asked multiple staff members if we found it. I told her that I didn't see it when I bust the table and that I would call her if it turned up. I never told anyone, but I never regretted doing it. When you treat people like shit, expect shitty things to happen to you. Edit number 1. Thanks for my first ever metal kind stranger. Edit number 2. I should have clarified that they stiffed me, as in they didn't tip me. They did pay their bill before they bounced. Lastly, I've been in the service industry for a hot minute, and I've only experienced this level of disrespect twice. Whether you believe it or not, some people actually think they have the right to talk to servers like this, and many restaurants dead-f. I put itching powder in my roommate's Fleshlight. Roommate was addicted to his Fleshlight and would put it in the dishwasher. I tried to talk to him about it many times, nothing worked. Took matters into my own hands and it gave him an infection. He had to get circumcised and thinks it's because of the dishwasher soap or salt. I regret doing this. Let me address some of the major points and questions here. We lived in a small flat with one bedroom. I never used the dishwasher. He turned it inside out when he put it in. In the beginning, he would leave it to soak in the bathroom sink. I protested vehemently, and as some have suspected here, I couldn't afford to move. He would leave it on or beside his bed after use. So I had this thing in my sight every time I was in our room. He'd use it while he thought I was sleeping too. He had poor hygiene to begin with. Messy fella. He was coddled at home and his mom cleaned up after him. He'd come in it and just go to sleep without cleaning himself. We shared an internet package which would be depleted before the month ended because of his porn addiction. I tolerated this for about 4 months because my conflict-avoiding ass just couldn't be aggressive enough. Throwing it away would have made things worse for me. As far as he's concerned, it was all his own doing. But the shameless slopping in the middle of the night was unbearable. He even took it with him when he went home some weekends, and I'm sure that he didn't wash it until he came back to the flat, because he probably wouldn't have been able to hide a cleaning session from his folks. It took about 2 weeks for his dick to get bad enough that he went to the doctor. But even after the itchy first use, I noticed he was going to the bathroom a lot. He still used it a couple times, which must have made it much worse. He suspected that I might have used it and given him an STD through it because he wasn't sleeping with anyone. I wasn't either, but he had to ask. He moved out at the end of the semester, and I saw him on campus occasionally. Our parents met at church, and his mom is a devout Christian. Telling her crossed my mind, but that's a bitch move. She basically administrated all his affairs, which is how she found out. I wasn't there when the handover took place, but I know she threw it away. She made him see a psychologist, and he had to go home every weekend. My quality of life was drastically improved, and his too, so I hear. The itching powder was from one of those party stores where you buy outfits and gags, etc., and was more like cotton wool than powder, but still called powder. This was a few years ago, and what reminded me of it was seeing his mom in the shop, and the shame hit her again when she saw me. Anyways, fuck you, Chris. I used to work in a shoe shop and deliberately sold a customer's shoes while she was trying on shoes, just to make her buy a new pair. Title says it all. I was 16 and my first job was in a shoe shop. We had one regular awkward woman customer who came in every Saturday afternoon whilst the store was at its busiest and literally asked to try on every pair of shoes in the shop before leaving an hour later without buying anything. I was the new boy and the youngest, so all the other staff always dumped her on me. One day, she was up to her usual Saturday afternoon hobby, and an elderly lady, obviously visually impaired, handed me a pair of shoes and asked me how much. They were the awkward customer's own shoes that the elderly woman had picked from the floor. I quoted her a ridiculously low price, and she bought them immediately. 10 minutes later, the awkward customer started shrieking that she couldn't find her shoes, and after complaining to the manager, believing they had been stolen by shoplifters. He was having none of it. stating it wasn't the company's fault if customers had their personal property stolen in the store. The woman had to buy a new pair of shoes or leave barefooted. We never saw her again. Edit. Thank you for all the replies. I would never have believed this posting would generate so much interest as I posted this story over a year ago as a reply on Ask Reddit and only received 3 replies. Lol. To elaborate on the story and answer some of the questions raised. Firstly, yes, it is a true story and happened sometime over the school summer holiday period of 1984, shortly after I started working at the store. The department I worked in wasn't exactly the normal shoe shop environment most people are familiar with. I worked in a special department on the lower ground floor of one of the larger branches of a national shoe retailer. And this department sold all the reject stock from all the other branches. Stuff such as shop-soiled, sun-faded stock from window displays, repaired damaged stock, customer returns, etc. The stuff that was below the standard that could be sold in the regular departments. All stock we held was displayed on the shop floor on racks, so you couldn't ask for different sizes, etc., as it was all random stuff. We only displayed the right foot of a pair of shoes, and customers had to ask for the left foot of the shoe to try on, and there was a rule that only one pair could be given to one customer to try on for security reasons. We had a major problem with shoplifting, and there were only normally 2 or a maximum of 3 members of staff manning the department. It was a hell of a job keeping track of the pairs that were handed to customers to try when the shop floor was busy, and often shoplifters waited till we were all distracted, then left without paying. This was before CCTV, so all we had were our eyes to monitor where paired stock was on the shop floor. The woman I describe as awkward wasn't just awkward in the traditional sense. She was totally obnoxious, narcissistic, racist, and constantly demanding attention. Her behavior lost us a lot of stock to shoplifters because she distracted us from watching other paired stock out on the shop floor, and she wouldn't return pairs she didn't want. Just kick them off in a corner before wandering around looking for the next pair. A couple of weeks before the story, a pair of shoes she had asked to try were stolen because of her doing this, and her attitude when we asked her was that it wasn't her problem and we deserved to lose stock because we were all Jews. Sorry if this is offensive to you, but that's what she said. Back to the original story, lol. The incident wasn't premeditated. It was one of those spontaneous fuck you opportunities where all rationality temporarily disappears for a moment. The elderly lady handed me the bitch woman's shoes, and that was it, lol. I only asked the elderly lady for either 50p or £1, I can't remember what, bagged them, and the sale went through the till, followed by a thank you. Incidentally, the condition of the bitch woman's shoes and quality of brand was a lot better than the crap we sold, so the old dear got one hell of a bargain. My thoughts immediately afterward weren't of satisfaction. They were of, oh shit, and I was bricking it, worrying what would happen next. Lol. When the shit hit the fan and the manager became involved, I was just glad he was pre-aware of her and had no sympathy for her loss because of her attitude when she previously lost our stock. Once again, thank you for all replies and the unexpected flow of upvotes.